The sphincter is supplied by the parasympathetic system and the dilator is supplied by the sympathetic system, which comes from the posterior hypothalamus. So we are all familiar with this anatomy, and any lesion which affects the optic nerves, we need to assess the relative afferent pupillary defect to find out afferent pupillary involvement. And any lesion which affects the other nerves supplying the pupils, we look for the causes of anisocoria, which basically relates to the efferent pupillary system. Let's take the afferent pupillary disorders. The clinical evaluation which I have found very useful is checking the direct pupillary light reflex and the consensual pupillary light reflex if required in certain cases, which I will show you later. The swinging flashlight test is the standard test, and what I use routinely is the bright light source of the indirect ophthalmoscope in a dark room with the patient fixing at a distant target, for example the 6x60 target in the distance, and without bringing the light directly onto the pupils, we shine the light from below, maybe 45 degrees below the horizontal axis, and swing the light across from one eye to the other and quickly swing it back. The swinging time should not be more than 1 or 2 seconds, but you stay on the eye for 3 seconds and then swing across quickly. So this is the technique that we use, and in most cases it elicits the RAPD very well. We also test the near synkinesis by testing the convergence, the miosis and the accommodation reflex. The psychosensory reflex is more theoretical, but it is useful in Horner's. Now let us see the swinging flashlight test. Okay. So this is the technique. It's a dark room. You have the indirect ophthalmoscope here. I'm shining light from below the eyes, not in front of the eyes, otherwise the patient would accommodate, and swinging across quickly within 1 or 2 seconds, but staying on the eye for 3 seconds to look at the pupil and its reaction. So now let us grade. Once we have this situation, how do we grade the RAPD? Now this is another close-up showing you the RAPD, and when you swing the light from the right eye, which is the abnormal eye, to the left eye, the pupil constricts, and you move back to the right eye and the pupil escapes. So how do we grade this RAPD? Let's go back to this slide. Okay. The grading is basically after years of experience, people have put together their thoughts and graded it as 1, 2, 3 and 4 plus. But clinically in practice we take it as 1 to 2 plus and 3 to 4 plus. It's difficult to really classify into 4 different grades. So the grading is such that initial constriction, when you come from the normal to the abnormal eye, there is an initial constriction but early dilation. The second grade is no initial constriction and then it dilates. So this is 1 to 2 plus, take them together usually. And the figures in the brackets are the neutral density filters which have been used to assess the grading of the pupil. And 3 to 4 plus, in 3 plus it is usually rapid dilation to a swinging light from the normal to the abnormal eye. And 4 plus is usually an eye with very poor vision, profound visual impairment, and it is an amaurotic pupil. And when you swing the light from the normal to the normal eye, it immediately escapes. So 3 to 4 plus is usually taken together. Just to show you this again, swinging the light across quickly, but we stay on the eye for 3 to 4 seconds and then assess the RAPD. Another one which shows you a gross RAPD. The right eye is the abnormal eye, left eye pupil constricts very well, right eye pupil escapes. So this is 3 to 4 plus. It escapes immediately in the right eye. Now what is the mechanism behind this? The A is without any light on the light, so in the darkness. B is when the light is shown on the normal pupil, both of the pupils constrict. C is when the light is shifted quickly to the abnormal pupil, both the pupils dilate, and when you shift back to the normal eye, both the pupils constrict. and this is the basis behind the consensual as well as the direct pupillary reflex. Beware, these are some points which you have to keep in mind. In strabismus, you have to shine the light directly along the visual axis of the deviated eye, otherwise you will not get a clear RAPD. And in very small pupils, you may not get the briskness of escape of the pupil. In media opacity, that media opacity cannot cause RAPD. The RAPD, if elicitable, is due to optic neuropathy. Bilateral loss of vision and normal fundus with very brisk pupils means it is cortical blindness. Problem is not in the eye. And then retinal disorders that can cause RAPD are severe macular disease. It can cause trace or 1 to 2 plus RAPD. And extensive retinal detachment like total RD or major retinal venous occlusion can cause grade 3 to 4 plus RAPD. But there are two situations where RAPD does not work. Bilateral optic neuropathy of similar magnitude, you may have sluggish pupils on both sides, so you cannot assess which eye is affected more. And bilateral fixed or tonic or dilated pupils. This was a patient who had bilateral optic atrophy. So if you see, there is no reaction to direct light, as well as when you move from this eye to the other eye, both eyes being equally affected, there is no reaction at all. Now let's come to efferent pupillary disorders. Anisocoria, which is more in the dark. This is a textbook description which cannot be used clinically. We don't have cocaine. If you do cocaine test and you get it positive, it is Horner's syndrome. And if you do hydroxyamphetamine test, you get the site of the lesion. Horner's syndrome, basically the clinical features are meiosis, a mild ptosis, an upside down ptosis of the lower lid, apparent enophthalmos, anhidrosis, heterochromia, and transient other findings. This is the clinical picture. So the eye which has got the smaller pupil has got ptosis and has apparent enophthalmos is the eye which has got the diseases. And the various locations and the disorders associated with it. The first order neuron could have neoplasms or demyelinating lesions. Second order neuron is usually in the lower part of the neck, so it is the apex of the chest, lungs, the CA lungs, which is the most common. And third order neuron, which could be in the cavernous sinus or superiorbital fissure area. Now anisocoria, which is greater in right eye, you go from normal examination from the slit lamp onwards. If there is iris damage, then it is most likely traumatic. If there has been a history of pharmacological drug use, then that could be the cause. But the two more important conditions are third nerve palsy and AD's tonic pupil. AD's pupil is 80% cases it is unilateral, and it is seen in young adults. It usually goes on to be bilateral, and the dilated pupil does not have a good reaction to light. It is tonic, as is the history, and it has diminished tendon reflexes. I'll show you a video of AD's pupil. Here you have a patient who has bilateral tonic pupils, one eye which is more dilated than the other, and when you go from this, see the size of the pupils, it is different, and both are not reacting. So both are tonic. This is not pharmacological, this is just as the patient presented to me. So this is AD's tonic pupils in both eyes in different stages. Okay, the other condition which has already been dealt with previous speakers is the third nerve palsy, where the pupil is dilated in the affected eye. There is exotropia and hypotropia, and there is a ptosis. The lid has been elevated manually, and you can see the extreme ptosis with limitation of adduction, depression, and elevation in the affected eye. This clinical diagnosis is not difficult to make. And this patient had, when this kind of a painful third nerve palsy, you have to do an MRI immediately, and you also need to do DSA, and we found an aneurysm in the right ICA. Now this is one situation which is very common. All of us see traumatic cases where traumatic pupillary involvement is there. So I'm going to show you 3 videos where there is anisocoria along with optic neuropathy, where you want to differentiate whether the patient has traumatic optic neuropathy or not. So here he had anisocoria, dilated pupil in the right eye, and when you move from the right to the left pupil constricts. So you use the consensual reflex here to find out that the right fixed pupil eye has traumatic optic neuropathy also. So this is just grade 1 RAPD in the right eye along with dilated pupil. The next situation is easier to diagnose because here a patient has cataract, so assessing the pupil is very easy. Now, right eye is traumatic optic neuropathy. So you move from the right eye to the left. This is direct reflex in the left, and you move to the right eye and come back to the left. The left pupil constricts, which is actually a normal eye with cataract. And right eye has traumatic anisocoria with optic neuropathy. And the last video is of a gross RAPD with anisocoria. The left eye has a dilated pupil due to trauma as well as an RAPD. When you go to the right normal eye, the pupil constricts immediately. So this tells us that the left abnormal eye has dilated pupil as well as optic neuropathy. The last slide. Pupils in head injury. You have, as we saw in the anatomy, hypothalamic damage causes a Horner syndrome. If it's mid-dilated, round, regular pupils which do not react to light, then the probable lesion is in the midbrain. If there are pinpoint pupils with retained light reflex, then the lesion is probably in the pons. And if there is uncal herniation, it leads to a compression of the third cranial nerve, causing a dilated pupil on the involved side. And anoxia leads to bilateral wide and fixed pupils. So the only tip I would like to give here is make swinging flashlight test part of a basic examination of all workups, not just neuro-ophthalmology cases. All patients. It just takes a few minutes. Thank you.